let's look at what the arms do or shouldn't do during the lift, and also what you as a lifter should be thinking about with the arms. Now, you will hear most coaches coach a first pull, a second pull. They'll even talk about a third pull and pulling yourself underneath the bar. If you have followed me as a coach, I am renowned for saying it's not a fecking pull. Let me try and explain so that you then, as the individual, can make an educated decision as to which school of thought you adapt and apply to your own training. Let's first of all look at the first movement off the floor. I call this the first phase rather than a first pull. One of the most common problems as a coach that I see of a lifter is as they come off the floor, they get an early arm bend. And I put that down to the fact the lifter has been taught it as a pull. And as soon as you say to a lifter, this is the first pull, what are they going to do? They're going to be pulling and yanking off the floor. I like to coach it and say, set the start position, exactly the same. And from here, I want it to be a push. Push with the legs. At the end of the day, if you are getting that bar off the floor with long arms, even a coach that says it's a first pull, they will still coach for the arms to be long. But if the arms are long, then how can it be a pull? Unless obviously you're talking about quads and glutes pulling on bones when they actively contract. So I would encourage from the start position here that this be coached first push or first phase, because that's exactly what's happening. You are pushing the floor away. We're not actively bending and pulling the arms. Some coaches now will talk about activation of the arms to keep the bar in contact with the body. I want you to make sure that you set the shoulders back and down so the lats are engaged. But in that start position, I want crease of armpit directly above the bar with lats engaged. From here, as I push with the legs, that bar should stay in contact with me because my shoulders are above the bar. If you are too far forwards with the shoulders, you will then actively have to pull the bar onto you. So if I'm too far forwards here, I'm going to have to pull the bar in to keep the contact. I would encourage shoulders to be above the bar so that you can push and the arms can remain loose. If the arms are remaining loose throughout, then you know that 100% of that effort is coming from the big muscle groups, the quads, the glutes, the lower back. Now let's look at the second phase of the lift, or as some coaches will coach, the second pull. As the lifter comes past their knees, they explode powerfully with the legs, shrug and pull in an attempt to get the bar higher. I do not coach this, and I will explain why. A lifter that passes their knees, explodes powerfully with the legs, hits full extension, shrugs and pulls, is now trying to get the bar higher. The point where the bar reaches its highest point, the lifter starts to drop underneath. And it's not long after before that bar starts to drop as well. And it becomes a direct race between the lifter and the bar. And at this point, the bar is high, but so is the lifter because they've been hanging on, delaying the time dropping under. Now compare that to a lifter, exactly the same. They pass their knees, but this time they have loose arms. They still explode powerfully, exactly the same, but instead of shrugging and pulling, they drop straight away. The bar, however, will continue to float upwards based on momentum generated from the legs. And the point where the bar changes direction, the lifter is already underneath. All the lifter has to do is receive the bar. So that is the reason that I do not coach an active shrug and pull on the way up. In my view, it delays the time that the lifter should be dropping underneath. Now let's look at the third pull, or pulling underneath the bar. If you hit extension, you now start to drop. I cannot argue against pulling underneath that bar as you drop. However, if you have time to think about pulling underneath, in my view, you're too slow. You should be underneath that bar, lightning fast. One of the strengths I had as a lifter was my speed, hitting extension and dropping underneath. And people say to me, did I pull underneath the bar? I genuinely have no clue, because it was that fast, it was over that quickly, that I don't know if I actively pulled underneath. Possibly, probably, but it's not something that I as a coach would spend time working on. I would be focusing on the speed, hitting extension there to dropping, because that speed transitioning between the two movements is what is going to elevate the bar Make the bar float whilst the lifter is transitioning underneath. And if you're fast, if you're explosive during that part of the movement, then you will be underneath the bar before the bar even changes direction. So there are my thoughts on what the arms should be doing. I coach throughout the movement loose arms. Remember, we're still setting the shoulder blades back and down so the lats are engaged. The bar will still stay in contact, but that's because the shoulders are above the bar, and the arms stay loose throughout, focusing on all of the power coming from the legs. And if you have 100% of your force going down with the legs, that bar will come up.